Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about one of the things that I find to be one of the biggest pet peeves in the industry, and that is that if it fits your macros and flexible dieting has somehow been promoted as the evidence-based approach, and it's just completely absurd to treat it as such because no reasonable person who spent 200 hours looking at nutritional science and food studies would ever draw that conclusion, right? What do I mean? Just look at all the research. If you look at the massive amount of compiled research on health, body composition, everything else, no reasonable, rational person would look at that accumulated data and say, oh, we should be eating 20% of our calories from fucking Pop Tarts. Like it's not evidence-based. Not evidence-based at all. Why? Because that's not how you control everything from inflammation, appetite, calories in, calories out, and everything from in the body. The majority of people, and I'm going to say the majority, meaning up to about 60% of people, aren't that good at moderation. In fact, they're not even that good at tracking calories. Like if you want to take the evidence-based approach, what does that tell us? The evidence-based approach tells us that humans, as a majority, suck ass at tracking calories. Even when given logs, given instructions, given food scales, we know they can't do it, particularly in a deficit. Over half of humans are incapable of doing it. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's not the evidence-based approach. You know what actually makes controlling calorie intake the easiest? And I'm not talking about for those of us who have really, really high calorie needs athletes, because this is the stuff that's aimed at the general population. The reality is should be aimed at athletes, right? Extremely athletic people are probably the only people who can get away with eating donuts every day and still being lean and fit. The majority of people can't do that. The majority of people can't do that. Those are foods for athletes. Not the general population. The general population shouldn't be eating any of that crap. They don't have the calorie needs for it. They do not burn through enough energy to justify eating foods like that have almost no micronutrients, antioxidants. They don't have the calories to spare. They will overeat them and they'll be fat. Okay? That's what the evidence says. And I get it. If you strength train 4 days a week and you do hours of cardio a day and actually have a lot of muscle, you can get away with that stuff. Sure. But that's definitely not the average person. That's not even the average person who works out. Hell, I can't even do it. And when my maintenance is 4,000 calories, I'll overeat if I eat junk like that. All right, so there's part of your problem. The majority of people will control calories better if they have a lower variety of food. They'll say stuff like, oh, well, restricting your food choices will cause you to overeat. No, it doesn't. That's not what the evidence says. So what do you have? The people who are claiming that and claiming to be evidence-based are claiming that that's been their experience with their clients. That's their anecdote. That is not what the evidence says. The evidence says high satiety foods give better caloric control. The evidence says lower food variety gives us better calorie control. Lower food variety, not more. That's just on the weight loss end. Let's talk about all the other health end. Every single study that I've ever seen to where heavily refined carbohydrates, saturated fat, particularly refined sugars, make up a significant percentage of the calories, blood work looks worse. A1C goes up, all your inflammatory markers go up. Lipid profiles get worse, either in terms of HDL or triglycerides. Overall inflammation in the body goes up anytime you eat any significant amounts of these foods. So people want to talk about this, 80-20 rule. Well, that's not evidence-based. All the evidence that I've ever seen, again, if you were to look at both the lab studies, controlled studies, observational studies, and the epidemiology, any reasonable person would conclude that if you took that 20% of Pop-Tarts or ice cream that you're telling people to eat every day, because that is what they're telling them to do, eat 20% just garbage, and try to get mostly whole foods. Really? That's evidence-based? Are you trying to kill your clients? Do you want them to have heart attacks, diabetes, cancer? I mean, is that your goal? You're not health practitioners. You sure as hell aren't caring about people's health or fitness when you're telling them that garbage. Absolutely not. Because if I were to look at the accumulated data and say, you know what, if we took that 20% Pop-Tarts or ice cream of your calories every day and we replaced it with fruits and vegetables, hell, even nuts, right? High in polyunsaturated fats, PUFAs, fruits and vegetables with a high antioxidant status, and more fiber added to their diet, what's the evidence say is going to happen? Their blood work's going to look better. Oh yeah, they're going to have better satiety and better diet control too. They're going to have that also. But they're going to be healthier. That is what the evidence says. Doesn't it? I mean, again, go look at pull 100 studies, pull 100 random studies on these topics up. Read them, read the conclusions, look at the blood work, the data, and tell me that that isn't what the evidence-based approach would be. It would be to not eat junk food. It would be to not eat a bunch of particularly like refined saturated fats and butter and crap. Right? It would be to not eat a bunch of refined sugars. It would be to eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, lean proteins, lean animal source proteins, all those things. That's what it would tell you to replace that 20% with. If we were actually going to be evidence-based and read the evidence, the literature, to draw our conclusions, instead of, well, my clients come from a society where everyone's fat as fuck and everyone's dying of heart disease and cancer and diabetes because of their terrible lifestyles, because we have a gluttony obsession as a society. And, because of that, we have to keep them these foods in because of social pressure. Really? Why don't you teach people to not want to be like all their friends and family who are dying of these diseases? How about we just teach them that that's more important? I don't know, that would be evidence-based. All right, my rant's over. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.